everyone, my name is Sean, and in today's video we're going to be building a Salamangreat deck. Last year on this channel I did do 2 videos going into very much detail about this deck and talking about the way you play it and the little nuances of every single card. I'm not going to cover this deck in that much detail again. I'm going to kind of give it as a brief overview. So if you are learning this deck, I'm going to have those videos linked to the description of this video, so you can go check those out and learn a bit more about how this card and how this deck works and why some of the cards are so powerful. But this is going to be a very brief kind of like cover of this deck again, because I was requested to do this deck by a lot of people again. So what is Salamangreats? Salamangreats have a mechanic that was described in the anime as reincarnation summoning. It's not a real mechanic, but essentially what it is that when these cards are used themselves to summon themselves, they then get their full benefits and their full effects. For example, if you use Sunlight Wolf has 2 effects, and if you use Sunlight Wolf to summon another copy of Sunlight Wolf, then you get all of Sunlight Wolf's effects. Without it, you only get one of the effects. This can be really costly, and so we use the card Salamangreat Sanctuary, because this card can allow you to use one of your link monsters as the whole material to do a reincarnation summon. And that is why we mostly focus on the link cards, because it makes it a lot more cost efficient, and we don't really use the fusion or the ritual card. I don't think anybody plays the ritual card at all. Now the great thing about Salamangreat is if you look at the 37 cards here and you were to go to genre and you were to go and hit the special summon button, you'll see that 23 out of the 37 cards here all have a special summon based effect, and there's a lot of variety to this deck in the way you can play it. But this is great because there's a lot of overlap with these cards, meaning they do other stuff but they also work as extenders as well. So learning all these different cards and reading through them can be really beneficial to you. And there's going to be cards which I don't even choose here that are still good, but there just wasn't the room for them, so I've gone for the best ones in my opinion. But there's a lot of variety here, like Fox is good, Mole can be good. I think one other card that's good is they have their own like kind of like premature burial card with Rising Fire. There's a lot of good cards here, but so feel free to read through these and I try to learn the effects of them as well. So for starters for this deck, the starters that we play are mainly 3 Flame Buffalo and double Lady Debug. These are our normal summons. Buffalo, when used for a link summon or leaves the field, can draw 2 cards from your deck, so it's a good starter. And Lady Debug can search your deck and add a Cyber's monster. Silent Mining does the same and adds a Cyber's monster, and Foolish Burial send 1 to the graveyard, because a lot of your cards have graveyard based effects. We have a 3 Pot of Desires as well, good draw power for this deck, and 1 Salamangreat Circle to do your searching. Balinx kind of serves as a starter because you can use pretty much any card in your deck to make it, and when this card is summoned you can search out Salamangreat Sanctuary. I need to take off this filter, and so it adds Sanctuary to your hand. And because we have ways to recover spell and trap cards from our graveyard, we only play 1 copy of Sanctuary because it's so easy to get to this card. Now these cards here also work as starters as well, but ideally you want to use them as extenders. But if you're in a situation where you happen to have none of these other 13 cards, or say that you don't have your normal summons, you can use one of these cards instead. Foxy, when normal summon, allows you to excavate the top 3 cards of your deck and pick 1, so it's like Pot of Duality for this deck. Gazelle has a Foolish Burial effect that sends 1 of your cards to the graveyard, and Spinny just is easy to use. Spinny can summon itself back from the graveyard if there's a Salamangreat card on the field, so you can normal summon it, make Balinx, bring it back to the front of the field, and then you've got an instant Sunlight Wolf. Speaking of which, one thing that I covered in those videos from last year is I go into a lot of detail of the different ways you can make Sunlight Wolf. I think it's really important that you learn all the different ways your monsters can make Sunlight Wolf, because you want to use this card as much as possible to recover your resources from your graveyard. So I strongly recommend going to learn those combos if you don't know them already. For extenders for this deck, we have quite a few as well. Obviously, Foxy, Gazelle, and Spinny all work as extenders. Foxy's extender effect is if it's in the graveyard, you can summon it back by discarding a card, and then it works as a removal effect, because if you do this, you can destroy a spell trap card on the field as well, so it's a good little special revival effect there. Gazelle can summon itself to the field anytime a Salamangreat monster is sent to your graveyard, which is really easy to do. I like to do like Silent Mining, send like Spinny to your graveyard, search out your Gazelle, and then Gazelle immediately summons itself to the field, so it's a really good card to use. And then the other cards we have are Falco. Falco, when sent to the graveyard, can set a spell and trap card from your graveyard to the field. Then it can also put back 1 of your monsters into your hand by bouncing it back and summoning Falco to the field. A great card to use it with is Gazelle, because Gazelle's at 1 but it's your best monster, and so you summon Gazelle with Falco in the graveyard, and then you use Falco, bounce back Gazelle for another turn, and then Falco will be on the field instead. Other cards we have are Sanctuaries and Extender, and we also have Will of the Salamangreat. This card is insane, so we're playing 3 copies of this. It's a monster reborn effect that can summon back a Salamangreat from your graveyard or your hand if you need to. But also, if one of your cards is reincarnated summoned, you can send it from the field to the graveyard to summon that many monsters, many monsters equal to that monster's link rating. So if you have a reincarnated Sunlight Wolf, you get 2 monsters, 3 for Heat Leo, 4 for Pyro Phoenix. Really, really powerful card, really great extender for this deck. For removal cards, Foxy's a removal card obviously, and then we play 1 copy of Foul. Foul extender effect is that it can summon itself to the field if another Salamangreat monster is summoned. But then also you can send 1 Salamangreat card from your hand or face up on the field to the graveyard to target 1 set card your opponent has, and they cannot use it until the end of the turn. This is great because you can use its own effect to send itself to the graveyard, and that way you can stop your opponent from activating. But there are so many other ways to get rid of spell and trap cards in this deck that we don't rely on this card, so it's there if you need it, but you don't need to use this card. The other thing I like about this card is that it's a level 4, and I didn't talk about Jack Jaguar, did I? My apologies. With Jack Jaguar and Falco, is another level 4 that you can use, and that's going to be important later on. So Jack Jaguar. Jack Jaguar is your best extender. Gazelle is your best extender / starter, but definitely Jack Jaguar is going to help you out a lot here. Jack Jaguar's graveyard effect is that you can shuffle back in 1 Salamangreat monster from your deck, from your graveyard, back into your deck to summon this card to a zone a link monster points to. So like Sunlight Wolf has up and down, you can summon it to its down arrow and then trigger its effect off of that. Now, Jack Jaguar is really useful for recovering your resources, and so that we don't have to play 3 copies of our cards in an extra deck. So we play 3 copies of Balix and 3 Sunlight Wolf, but for Heat Leo and Pyro Phoenix, we only play 2 copies of them because we can recover them using Jack Jaguar's effect. So what you do is, you do your reincarnation summon, you say a Heat Leo to summon out a Heat Leo, or Pyro Phoenix to summon out a Pyro Phoenix, and then you activate Jack Jaguar, put the other copy back in the deck that you just used, and then if you want to do another reincarnation in your next turn, you have another card to do that with. So it's a really cost efficient card. This card also does piercing damage to your opponent, so it does a little bit of damage as well. Your best extender for this deck is Sunlight Wolf. Sunlight Wolf, if a card is summoned to a zone it points to, you get to add a fire monster from your graveyard to your hand, so it covers your monsters. And then if it has its reincarnated effect, you can add a spell trap card from your graveyard to your hand. This card you almost want to make it every single turn, even if it's just for the non-reincarnated based effect, because it is very, very cost efficient, and is what helps this deck to grind so really, really well. And then we have Transcode Talker. I won't talk about that card later on, but it is an extender as well. Removal cards, like I said, we have Foxy and Foul, but another way you can get rid of spell and trap cards on the field is using Heat Leo. Heat Leo, when Link Summoned, can get rid of shuffle 1 card your opponent controls back into their deck that is in the spell and trap zone. This does not work on field spell cards, unfortunately, so be aware of that, but this is not a once per turn effect. So you could do Heat Leo summon, reincarnate, go for another Heat Leo, and you can get rid of 2 cards on the field instead of just 1. It's one of your main forms of back row removal, and it's a really, really good effect to use. Rage and Pyro Phoenix are also really good because they can destroy monsters and spell and trap cards on the field. Rage works by either sending one Salamangreat monster from your hand or face up on the field to the graveyard to destroy a card on the field, or targeting a monster that you have that's been reincarnated summoned and destroying cards on the field equal to its leak rating. So you can do 2 for Sunlight Wolf, pop 3 for Heat Leo, and 4 for Pyro Phoenix. These are really, really powerful cards, and you want to see this almost all the time. Pyro Phoenix blows up your opponent's field. Really easy to use once it's reincarnated summoned. It has another effect as well, which you don't really use, but its reincarnation effect is just blow up all cards on the field. Really, really good card to use. Defensive options, we have quite a few here. Ash is like a staple for Salamangreats, because you can recover this with Sunlight Wolf. You can get multiple copies of Ash, and she's a fire monster as well. She also really works well with Heat Leo as well, and I'll talk a bit more about what that does later on. Then we have one Prohibit Snake. This card allows you to bounce one of your opponent's cards when your Cyber's Link Monster battles, and then it can recover itself from the graveyard if your opponent can destroy. You can destroy one of your opponent's monsters by battle. So it's a really good card to use. We have 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, one of the best hand traps in the game, and just a really good, easy to use negate. Then we have 2 copies of Salamangreat Raw, the Omni Negate for the deck. This card can also set itself from the graveyard to the field if you do a Reincarnation Summon. And then your extra deck monsters don't really have like defensive based effects, so we're doing 1 Baguska and 1 Gossip Shadow. Gossip Shadow is for your level 3s and Baguska is for your level 4s. Baguska is skill drain on legs if it's in defense position, and that doesn't affect your Link monsters, so they can just play without any interruption. And then your Gossip Shadow turns any effect into draw 1 card, so it can kind of work as a negate in a way where you can just change the effect of a card. Now your endgame cards, I guess you could say Heat Leo and Pirate Phoenix as well are kind of like endgame cards. Heat Leo's reincarnated effect is you can change the attack of one of your opponent's monsters to copy the one monster in your graveyard. So if you have Ash in your graveyard, you can make one of their monsters 0 attack. So that could do a lot of damage to your opponent. Pirate Phoenix blows up the field, as I said. It also has this graveyard based effect where you can, if your opponent summons a Link monster, it can do burn damage to them. But because not everyone plays Link based decks anymore, you can't guarantee to use this, so we're not relying on that effect anymore. And then we have Fusion of Fire with Salamangreat Violet Chimera. This card again was mostly used in the Link format, but Fusion of Fire is super polymerization just for Salamangreats. And the materials for Violet Chimera is 1 Salamangreat monster and 1 Link monster. Now, because not everyone plays Link monsters, you're not always going to be able to use Fusion of Fire, but I'm deliberately putting in the deck today because I want to showcase what this card can do and what this monster can do. Violet Chimera gets attack boost equal to the monsters it used, half of the attack, and if you do use it as a reincarnated summon, you can double this card's attack during damage calculation, so it can OTK your opponent potentially. But again, we're not going to rely on this, and we're not even playing 2 copies of this card, so you won't ever see this effect really in this deck. The reason why we don't use Violet Chimera to summon Violet Chimera really is because the field spell doesn't work with it. It only works with your Link monsters. Transcode Talker and Update Jammer here as well. I've talked about these before in the past with my other Cybers decks. Transcode Talker and Update Jammer. Transcode Talker is an extender. You can summon any level 2, Link 2 or Link 3 or lower Cybers Link monster in your graveyard to a zone it points to. And Update Jammer can give any Cybers monster that uses it as material for a Link summon double attack. So the combo with these two is you make Update Jammer and then use Update Jammer and another monster to make Transcode Talker. Transcode Talker then gets double attack, then use the effect to revive Update Jammer, and then Transcode Talker has 2800 attack thanks to its effect, and Update Jammer has 2500 attack. And if these cards attack and altogether, you can do 8100 damage in a single turn. So there is the quick breakdown of the deck. Like I said, I really went very brief. There's a lot more to these cards and what they can do, but I really wanted to keep this brief because of I'm also going to do gameplay for you as well. And so if you want to see it in more detail, feel free to go and watch those videos and you can learn a bit more about the deck. But the deck is here. We have double Ash, 3 Buffalo, double Debug, 1 Prohibit Snake, 1 Falco, 1 Fowl, 3 Foxy, 1 Gazelle, 3 Jaguar, 3 Spinny, 3 Mining, 1 Foolish, 1 Fusion of Fire, 3 Desires, 1 Circle, 1 Sanctuary, 3 Will, 3 Impermanence, double Rage, double Roar. Extra deck is your 1 Violet Chimera, 1 Baguska, 1 Gossip Shadow, 3 Balinks, double Heat Leo, double Pirate Phoenix, 3 Sunlight Wolf, Transcode, and Update Jammer. The only thing this deck can't really do is attack the graveyard. That's the only thing it can't do. So if you don't want to bother with Violet Chimera, you can take out these 2 cards and say play Abyss Dweller instead if you want to do that, and maybe another extender like Monster Reborn, so that you can easily get 2 3s or 2 4s on the field. But like I said, I wanted to show it what this deck can do. So let's go to a video and I'll describe what this deck can do in action. Now here's the video I had here, and we're going to play against Can You Beat Trilly. I think I can beat Trilly. I don't know who Trilly is. Hopefully Trilly doesn't mind getting beaten, but we'll see what that is. I'm going to fast forward this a bit there. Don't know why it took so long to do rock, paper, scissors. There we go. And here we are into the game. So because you have so many starter cards in this deck is really consistent. And its only real weaknesses is cards that attack the graveyard or banish cards that are sent to the graveyard, and Nibiru. Nibiru can kind of really screw up your plays, but not everybody plays Nibiru, so you don't really have to worry about that in this game, because a lot of people don't seem to even know hand traps exist in this game. So my opponent is playing a Speedroid deck, a deck I haven't really seen used in a very long time. It was a very popular deck in the Synchro Summon era, and I know Taptenborg, and I forgot the other level 3, but it used to be used quite a lot to make like rank 3 decks work. I think Burning Abyss used to use it quite a lot, where I'm trying to remember what the card was called. There's Taptenborg, but there was another card that can add Taptenborg from your deck to your hand that was really easy to use, can't remember it. But Speedroids kind of work around the card of Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, I believe it's called. One of the cards of one of the variations of Yu-Gi-Oh! Used to use that in Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc V, and it's a good card. I know there's Crystal Wing, and there's another higher version of it as well, which is a better effect. Nowadays, I think the card's a bit slow, but I think it's still an okay card, and it's nice to see someone trying to build a Speedroid deck and make it work. It's just not as good as it used to be back in the day, but it is still a fun deck to play, and it's a win-based deck, and there aren't that many win-based decks in this game. Now, our hand is pretty good here. We didn't draw any hand traps, which is unfortunate, but we do have quite a few starters. We have Silent Mining, which is great. We have Will, which is our best extender. We have Desires. Your hands are always pretty good. I don't really ever think Salamangreat worries about bricking too much. Let's say that like somehow you draw 3 copies of Jack Jaguar, 3 copies of, I guess, Foxy. Then even that as a hand can still do something. It'll still work. So this deck doesn't really brick that much. So there goes Clearing. Oh yeah, it's Clearing Synchro Dragon, and then Crystal Wing is the higher form. Now, Clear Wing has a negate effect, and we've got to be careful with using that, but other than that, I'm not really too worried about it. It's not that great of a boss monster anymore, so I'm not really too worried about it. I think its effect negates the effects of level 5 or higher monsters, and I'm not really playing any of those, so I'm not too worried, except for Violet Chimera. But other than that, yeah, our card should be able to play around Clear Wing quite easily. So we do Silent Mining, we send our Jack Jaguar, because it loves to be in the graveyard, and then we go and add Gazelle. Gazelle is our best searcher for the deck, so we're going to use Gazelle's effect immediately, because the last thing to happen was a Salamangreat monster was sent to the graveyard, so we could trigger its effect, and then we can special summon it to the field. And then when this card is summoned to the field, we get to send a card from the deck to the graveyard. There are so many different targets you can send to the graveyard for this. It's not always easy to decide what to go for. Spinny is like one of your easiest bets, because Spinny will be able to activate immediately, and that will get you to Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf quite quickly. But you could also send your spell and trap cards if you want to. You can send Rage, and then when you do a Reincarnation summon, it will come back to the field, and then you have a negate set up for your next turn. Or you can even go for Roar if you want to, or even Circle, because Sunlight Wolf can get back spell and trap cards from your graveyard, or even Falco can do that too. So there's a lot that you can do with this deck. When Gazelle was at 3, it was so much easier to run this deck and search out your spell and trap cards. And so we only used to play like 1 Roar, 1 Rage, because it was so easy to recover again and again and again. But now that we don't have Gazelle at 3 and it's only at 1, we use multiple copies of this card, because sometimes you want to get a card that you haven't already hard drawn, and so being able to hard draw it as well is kind of ideal. Buffalo and Bayleaks are triggering, and also he has used the card Lost Wind. Lost Wind is a good card. I like Lost Wind. We used to call it the poor man's Infinite Impermanence in real life, because Infinite Impermanence is a very expensive card. I don't know how much expensive it is now. I know it's been reprinted a few times, but Imperm can be very costly, and back in the day it was like a £20 card each in the UK. It might still be around that price, and some people can't afford that. Lost Wind kind of does the same thing, but it doesn't work from your hand at all. What Lost Wind does is you target one monster that was special summoned, and you can half its attack, and you permanently negate that card's effects and half its attack. So it's really, really good in that sense, because the effect that it does, unlike Infinite Permanence, doesn't only last to the end phase, it lasts permanently. And then also, if you special summon a card, if your opponent special summons a monster to the field after this card's in the graveyard, it can set itself back to the field. So it's actually a really, really good card. It's not quite as good as Infinite Impermanence in my opinion, but it's good enough in my opinion. It's good. It's pretty good. So we've made our Sunlight Wolf here, and we have Foul in our hand. And so Foul is summoned to a zone that Sunlight Wolf points to. So its effect will trigger, and then we can get back Gazelle from our graveyard to our hand. And then he can't use his Lost Wind because it was set this turn. So we're going to attack the other 2 cards on the field. And so we use Foul's effect, and we're going to send itself from our field to the graveyard to lock off one of our opponent's cards. So I'm going to go for the center card, and if he doesn't respond right now, which he hasn't, for the rest of the turn he cannot use that card. So we are safe from that one. So there's only one more Spell and Trap card to worry about, and so we're going to try and get rid of it. And the best way to get rid of Spell and Trap cards your opponent controls is to use Salamangreat Heatleo. So I activate Will of the Salamangreat, and I deliberately activate in that column because I'm trying to tempt my opponent to play Infinite Impermanence, if that is it, because I don't think, I think it could be an Imperm, it's possible because he's playing Lost Wind. A lot of people like to play Lost Wind and Imperm together, so I'm trying to think maybe that's what it could be. And this would be a good time to negate Will of the Salamangreat if he wanted to, but it looks like he's not going to respond to the effect at all. Or will he? I think I've just used the effect, and we'll see if it goes through or not. And it looks like, well, he's thinking for a while. We'll let him decide. While he does that, I'm just going to have a drink of water. 1 second. So, still hasn't decided. Why is he taking so long? I'm going to fast forward a little bit. No, so he doesn't choose to activate it. He decides not to. So we are going to bring back a Jaguar. And Jaguar will go to anywhere on the field. And then we could use Jaguar and our Link 2 to make our Heatleo and summon that out. Now, Heatleo is really good. Heatleo into Heatleo is a great way to break boards. It is a fantastic card for going second. And that's the one thing with Salamangreats. They don't have a great going first play. You need your trap cards to kind of go first to build a board. But that's why we play Baguska. Oops, oh, I didn't mean to go backwards. That's why we play Baguska and also Bamboozling Shadow to help our boards a bit more when we go first. But you kind of have to hope that you draw to your cards as well. So there's Heatleo with his fancy animation. For a long time, at least at the time I think this game was originally released on the Nintendo Switch, Heatleo was the boss monster of the deck, and during that time Pyro Phoenix came out afterwards. So Pyro Phoenix sadly doesn't have an animation, but Heatleo does, which is kind of a shame for the deck because I would love to see an animation for Pyro Phoenix, but I guess they only updated the game. They didn't actually have time to add stuff to the game other than, no, they did add new cards. They did add new cards after the Nintendo Switch's release, which was good of them, but no new animations from there. So it is what it is. You get one. I think maybe we just get one. Well, Dark Magician has 2. Dark Magician Girl has 2 herself. There's 2 animations for Dark Magician Girl, and Dark Magician as well has an animation. So all lots of love for the old school cards, not quite the newer ones, which is a shame. I see so many people playing Dark Magician recently. I'm so sick of playing against it. It's it's okay. It is a good deck, don't get me wrong, it is a good deck and everyone loves that deck, but man, I'm so sick of running into people playing that deck. It's just boring to beat, in my opinion. That's why I love seeing decks like this, even though a deck like this isn't going to do as much of a threat as the Dark Magician deck would do. So, Heatleo got rid of 2 cards because we reincarnated someone into it, and because we've used all our effects now, we're now going to get Pot of Desires and we're going to activate it to draw 2. And we've drawn into both 1 copy each of our back row cards. That's kind of insane that we were able to do that. So we have a follow-up play for that turn. Now, because we did reincarnate summon Heatleo, I do want to use the effect of Heatleo to make our Synchro Dragon's attack into 0 attack. But it's going to negate it anyway and destroy our Heatleo, which isn't terrible because we have Balix in the graveyard, and Balix can protect our Salamangreat cards from being destroyed by banishing it instead. But there's no benefit for me to doing that because my attack will still be weaker than his monsters. So no point attacking here. But we do have Rage and we do have Roar. So my opponent now summons that double Yo-Yo. I'm still wondering what that card was. I can picture it as well, but I can't remember the name. The card that would search out Taptenborg. Oh man, what was it called? We used to play 3 copies of it and 1 Taptenborg. I can't remember. I'll have to look it up after this video maybe. So he uses Yo-Yo. Yo-Yo is going to bring back Tapton Borg. That's a 4 and a 3, and then one of them is a tuner, so he can do another synchro summon. But before he does that, we're going to activate Rage, and then we're going to use the second effect to target our reincarnated summon Heatleo, and that is going to allow us to destroy up to 3 cards on the field. What's great about Rage as well is it doesn't target the cards you're going to destroy, so it's non-targeted removal. It targets the monster that you are choosing for its link rating. The second effect, that is, not the first effect. The first effect definitely targets, but the second effect does not target. So him using Lost Wind now doesn't really hurt us, because we still get to destroy 3 cards on the field, and maybe he just wanted to use it preemptively to negate my monster's effect or half his attack, but it's not going to help him much in this situation. So we have a full empty board thanks to Rage, and now we're going to pass over to our turn. And so we're going to do a bit of damage here, because we have a lot of resources available to us. When Salamangreat has cards in the graveyard, they always have resources to them as well. So we have Will of the Salamangreat. I could get 3 cards from the graveyard, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go for 1. Right now my plan is I'm deliberately doing a play here. It isn't the most efficient play. There's definitely different things I would have done on this turn differently, but I definitely wanted to kind of show you Violet Chimera, because I've never summoned it before in one of these videos. So I'm deliberately doing a play to go for Violet Chimera. But first I'm using Sunlight Wolf, then we're going to reincarnate summon it to bring out another Sunlight Wolf, and then Sunlight Wolf will get both of its effects. But because it's in the main monster zone, it's going to be hard to summon a monster to a zone it points to, especially with these arrows on the field right now, so we're not going to get that. But we will get a spell and track card from our graveyard. And now we're going to summon out Gazelle again. Gazelle will trigger, and Gazelle will send a card from our deck to the graveyard. I didn't even check if I already banished this card. I kind of just assumed I had it already. But I'm going to send Fusion of Fire deliberately, just so that we can do this fusion summoning. This card used to be really good. When Salamangreat was like one of the most popular decks in the game, and a lot of people were playing Link decks, Fusion of Fire was a really good tech card to have, because it's super polymerization, but you can only summon out 1 monster, which is kind of a downside. But being able to get rid of your opponent's Link monster, anyone without targeting it, is a really great thing to do. The only thing that is not like super polymerization is that your opponent can activate cards in response to this card's effect, so it doesn't have that like protection thing. But we're going to do it anyway. We're going to make our Sunlight Violet Chimera. We're going to get rid of the Heatleo who had his attack halved, and then we're going to summon out and use Gazelle as well, and then we're going to summon out Violet Chimera and bring it to the board. And it will copy, it will add up the original attack of the 2 monsters that we'll use for its summon, and it will gain half the attack equal to it. So Heatleo's original attack is 2300, and Gazelle's effect, Gazelle's original attack is 1500. So altogether that's 3800 attack, and we get half of that, so that is 1750. Am I counting that right? No, I'm definitely not counting that right. Half of 3800 is 1900. So we got a 1900 additional attack. So we're going to attack for 4700 in total. And so Violet Chimera can be used as a win condition. It is a very strong card. It can do a lot of damage in 1 turn. And that's kind of just why I wanted to show you it as an option. But I personally wouldn't play it anymore because of the current meta and the way it is. So on to Trini's turn here. He draws a card. We've broken through his board. We've got rid of a lot of his resources. And in this situation, yeah, he's just going to surrender. We won that game there. And so that is Salamangreats. I love this deck. And I think personally, in my opinion, I think everybody that tries to learn Yu-Gi-Oh nowadays should learn Salamangreats. It's a great deck to learn, to then learn the meta, because you're never going to be in a situation with this deck where you feel like there's nothing you can do. There's always going to be an out for your opponent's cards. There's always going to be a thing to do. And it has hand traps, it has removal, it has draw power, it has link summoning. It's a very good deck to use. So I strongly recommend it. I highly recommend playing Salamangreats. It's a very fun deck as well to learn how to play. As always, guys, thank you very much for watching this video. Try to do 1 deck profile a day. And yeah, I'll see you soon. Take care.